Hello students, in this video we're going to talk about how to define and explain the laws of thermodynamics in relationship to ecosystems. So essentially we're going to go back to physics. You've all taken physics in middle school or high school, and we need to remember some of the cliches from back in the day. Essentially, we've all heard the term energy is neither created or destroyed. I want you to take a look at this image of the planet Earth. Not only did this image launch the environmental movement in the mid-20th century, it also is a great example of how the atmosphere traps moisture close to the Earth. The Earth itself is a closed system. All of the water that is on planet Earth has been here since the Earth was formed. It has been through the digestive system of dinosaurs. It has been recycled in nearly every river on the planet. And so when we think about water, we need to think about its basic chemical properties and the idea that the molecule itself, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, those atoms have been here since the beginning of the Earth. So how does this work? All of the energy on Earth is derived from the sun. The sun's photons come zipping into the Earth's atmosphere, and they strike photosynthetic organisms or a plant leaf, where they impart that energy from the photons to electrons within those molecules inside of those biological organisms. So essentially, the electrons gain energy from the photons, and they're so excited that they move to another valence level. You don't need to really think about these energy levels in terms of environmental science, but you need to understand that by gaining energy, these electrons move away from the nucleus of the molecules in which they reside. That makes them more available for chemical bonding. So what happens? The carbon dioxide comes into the plant leaf as the stoma open. The photons are striking the leaf surface. Water is lost at this time. So this small little molecule, the carbon dioxide, enters the plant. This is the carbon that makes sugars, that fuels basically all of biological life on the planet. So carbon dioxide is a source of carbon that makes sugars. Let's think about that. In this top right diagram, we see the carbon dioxide space-filling molecule. Essentially, carbon dioxide. There are 2 oxygens and 1 carbon. So by virtue of that mathematics, you can decipher that the red balls are the oxygen and the black ones are the carbon. But there are only a total of 3 atoms in this molecule. The energy from the photons helps make these molecules larger. The basic structure of sugar, the byproduct of photosynthesis, is an organic molecular structure consisting of 3 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens in that ratio. So here we see a picture of glucose in the lower right corner of the slide. Look at how many atoms are in that molecule that was fused together through chemical bonding, the energy of which is derived from the sun. So now let's take this story forward a bit. You eat plant-based foods, or you eat animals that eat plants. So when we think about where do we get energy, and I talk about physics to my science students, what I find is that they often talk about like the human body as the origination point of energy, but it's the sun, okay? All the actions that you're taking are derived from energy imparted into molecules that you consume, okay? Then you do stuff. You move around, you breathe, you think, you play soccer, you dive, whatever you do, that requires energy. All organisms, plants and animals, fungi, bacteria, they engage in cellular respiration. This is basically a process by which these large molecules, these large sugar molecules, are broken back down into carbon dioxide. So thinking again, back to elementary school, You take a breath in, and you take in oxygen. You take a breath out, and you exhale carbon dioxide. So the great ecosystem cycle involves the uptake of carbon dioxide by plants and the exhalation of carbon dioxide or respiration of carbon dioxide by animals. Bacteria and archaea, archaea and fungi also participate in cellular respiration, but in the simplest terms, plants breathe in what we breathe out. So you turn that sugar into energy. You move your body. Kinetic energy is the most entropic energy. So in the process of moving, think about it. When you go for a run, what happens? You get all sweaty. When you go skiing, you get all sweaty. You exude heat. That heat is literally the energy of the sun, a byproduct of breaking these molecules down. That is thermodynamics. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. When you go out and you ski down a run, you basically take that granola bar you ate for breakfast, represented by this glucose molecule, and you break it down and you move your body down the hill. And what is released? These carbon dioxide gaseous molecules that are then taken in and rebuilt into larger sugar molecules. So one of the big punchlines of this lecture is that you think about molecule size in terms of thermodynamics. Okay? Matter can never be created or destroyed, but we can impart energy, we can make bigger molecules, and we can break them down. So, remember that the basic formula of sugar is C6H12O6. That's 24 atoms. So, we want to think about how we keep those atoms within the system. Recall the image of the planet Earth. The atmosphere helps us to hold those molecules close to the Earth. Every drop of water cycling through the Earth's 6 systems is doing just that. It's cycling. It's been here. Okay? In this lab, we're going to investigate water cycling by creating 2 analogous microbiomes, one that operates within an atmosphere to hold in water, and one that operates as an open system. So, the materials for this lab, you just need to find 2 containers of equal sizes and dimensions. Hopefully you understand by now, I don't care about the details. I want to reduce your stress. I don't care what size these containers are. It doesn't matter what kinds of plastic bottles they are. Just find ones that are within your environment. These are going to be the geography of your ecosystem, just like how the atmosphere contains the Earth into a single system. You can also look for some seeds in a spray bottle, but this is not necessary. For each container, you're going to need 2. You're going to fill it 1/3 of the way with soil. You could use soil from your garden or a park or the forest, or it can be soil from a bag. If it's from an outdoor space, it probably already has seeds in it of some kind. If that is the case, you can just stop here with regard to the materials. If you have seeds lying around or you find some at the grocery or nursery store, you could see them in the grasses and plants in your garden outside. Collect them. In other words, like if you're walking around the neighborhood and you see some dried grasses, you can just pull some of those seeds off. You can add any seeds you find to your microbiome. Sprinkle the seeds in and add a fine layer of soil on top to cover the seeds. You want to write the date you build the microbiome on the bottle with a Sharpie or with tape. You want to wet the soil so that you can see the water in the container rising about 1 centimeter up. So just keep in mind, like, the first knuckle of your thumb is roughly equivalent to 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. You don't want to make this an anaerobic environment. In other words, you don't want the soil to be so wet that there's no oxygen in the soil. This will deter plant growth, which we will talk about in a future module. So you have 2 ecosystems here, And in the lid of one container, you're going to poke a few air holes, but you're mostly going to seal it. And you're going to discard the lid to the other container. You're going to put the perforated lid on one microbiome and leave the other one open. Okay, you want to make a table to record your observations. So the table should at least include the date. It should include a reference to each microbiome, so you have two. You got to decide which one's the control. And you want to have a space for general observations about plant growth, like if any seeds germinate, and also about the moisture levels in the microbiome. So is there condensation in there? After a week of observing it, you want to summarize your results in the lab report. And there is a different wiki page to describe the lab report guidelines. Be sure to include in your discussion of how the two microbiomes behave differently in light of their different moisture holding capacities. In the end, you want to be able to answer the question, how does this demonstrate the laws of thermodynamics? From an environmental perspective, if it helps to look at examples, think about what would be the effect of having a hole in the ozone layer. So you basically want to apply these ideas of physics and how energy is controlled in a controlled system, and that matter is never created or destroyed. And you want to be able to compare the two systems. We just did a lab about an experimental design, so I want to certainly read words from you about the experimental design in the methods section. How have you controlled this experiment? To look at the specific variables that you're interested in. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.